Shalom Aleichem to all of you. Nice to see you and hear you. And this week's parasha, Parshas Vayera, that we're going to read in Shul. And it starts off with the ending of the parasha before Lech Lecha. And ended off last week that Hashem gave the commandment to Avram Avinu of bris milah, of circumcision, and Avram Avinu performed that mitzvah. He circumcised himself and circumcised all the people living, all the males living in his house. And we're starting off this Parashat Vayera, the third day of that meal of the operation that he did on himself. And he was already 99 years old when he performed that circumcision. He's an old person, not quite as old as 99 today. They used to live longer than that, but still was pretty old even for those days. So here you have a person, old person. He's sick because he made this operation. He's in pain. So you would think, where are you going to find him? Find him in bed, recuperating from what he went through, this difficult operation that he went through, but it was nowhere near a bed. Guess where he was? He was outside of the door of where he was living. What was doing outside? He was looking for guests, for people who were passing by to invite them to come into his house and to fulfill the mitzvah of achnasas orchim, to bring people, guests into your home. So here he is, sick, weak, old, in pain. And not only that, it was very hot that day. Like Rashi tells us, Hashem had rachmim on him, mercy on him. He knew that Avinu was going to look for orchim, for guests. So Hashem made it especially hot day in order that people should not be traveling for such a hot day. But Avram Avinu was waiting. He was in pain. In pain, I mean, besides the physical pain, he was in an emotional pain. He couldn't be mekayim the mitzvah of achnasas orchim. The Chafetz Chaim tells us that we have to learn from Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu would not allow one day of his life to go by without doing a kind act. Every day he had to do something kind for somebody. He learned from Hashem, from God himself, that we have to go in the way of God. Mahu afata. We have to emulate God. And God is always doing kindness to the world in all different ways. That he gives us life and food and shelter and clothing and children and all good things in the world. And therefore we have to emulate him and always do kindness every day of our life to emulate him. Avraham Avinu kept it literally. Every day of his life he had to do something. Even though he was in such a situation, difficult situation to do so, but he would not allow a day to go by without doing a kind act. And one of the things he was very famous for was to invite people into his house. Of course, the simple idea sounds like he invited people into his house, gave them to eat, made them relax under the shade, whatever it is. But that itself, yet, that's a very big mitzvah, a kind act to do in a physical way. But Avraham Avinu did a much more kind than that. He did it in a spiritual way. People come into his home, when he would wine them and dine them and give them all kinds of good food and so on. But when it came from the time to leave, they would thank him. He said, "You're thanking me. You have to thank the one that created all these good things, created the world, created the wine and the food and whatever I gave you. I didn't create. I'm serving you. But there's a God in the world." And that's how he would explain the truth of the creation to people it was popular then to serve idols, and he would make fun of people made fun of the idols and say they can't create anything. So I think this was an opportunity for him to teach people the truth of the world. So he invited them, and he took care of them physically with good food, but then he took care of them with good food for the soul, explaining to them the truth of what the world is all about. There's a God, the creator, and he knows what we're doing, and he has laws he gave us, and so on. So this day itself was no different to him. No matter how he felt, he must go ahead and do his good, kind act of the day, inviting in people to have a chance to relax and to eat, and bring the guests into his home. So, but Hashem felt that it's very hard for him today, since he's in the situation that he's in. So Hashem made the weather hotter. People shouldn't travel. Avram Avinu felt so bad. He's not getting any guests today. So Hashem, in order to make him feel good, he brought these 3 guests to come to his home. So now it turned upside down. Instead of the heat being good for him to keep the guests out of his house, since now the guests came, and now it was even hotter than before, it was harder for him even. He was sitting outside in the heat of the sun, and the temperature even higher than usual, but nothing could stop him from doing his daily mitzvah. And therefore, he sat outside looking, waiting for people to come by to invite him into his home. And these 3 people, as we know, really were not people. They were angels, 3 angels in the form of people. They were Gabriel, Gabriel, and Raphael, the 3 great known Malachim, 3 angels. Each one had their own purpose of coming to the world. And of course, we're not going to discuss that right now, go into depth in that. We're just talking about the way of being a host, like the name of our shmooze tonight, to be a host that God will be proud of us, how we handle guests. It's a big mitzvah. It's a big mitzvah to bring guests into our home. And we want to see to the extent that Avram Avinu did it, for us to learn from there. So here we have the 3 angels in the form of people. Avram Avinu, at this point, started regular people. We're told, the rabbis tell us, that a person can do a mitzvah when it's easy. He can do a mitzvah when it's difficult. The words of our rabbis is that if a person does a mitzvah when it's with pain, with difficulty, it's worth 100 times more than a mitzvah without any difficulty. Those are the words of the rabbis. Our holy rabbis tell us. Here, Avram Avinu, you can bring a guest into the house, and it's easy, it's not a problem. But here, it was not easy at all. It was very difficult for him to do, like I mentioned before. And again, we have to learn from Avram Avinu not only to do kindness when it's easy, but of course, naturally, that's if it's easy, you don't keep away from it, you do it. But when it's difficult, that's the real challenge. But when we're contemplating, should I, shouldn't I, it's hard, should I do it, it's going to be painful, realize if you do it one time without the pleasure of doing the mitzvah, but it happens to be a difficult mitzvah, painful mitzvah, like in this case, you don't feel good. Somebody calls you on the phone, I need some help, either to talk to them or go to where they are, and you're not in the mood, or you're not feeling so good, and you want to go to sleep, but the other person needs your help. So you have the big challenge. Should I tell them, I'm sorry, I can't do it tonight? Or maybe push yourself, and even though it's difficult, realize, think about Avram Avinu. I'm sure it won't be as difficult as it was for him. with age and his pain and was suffering as he was sick. But imagine the schar, the reward the person is going to get for doing a mitzvah when it's difficult to do so. This is what we have to learn. We have to learn from all the stories that were being told on part of the Sefer Bereshis, in the first of the 5 books. It's full of stories of great tzaddikim, of the Avos mainly. Avram, Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Torah is here putting it down for us to learn from them, to apply it to our daily life. And this parsha of Vayera, starting off with this act of kindness of Avraham Avinu, is teaching us this great lesson. Do a mitzvah even though it's difficult, and realize how much more reward the person is going to get for doing the mitzvah. So the Torah describes pretty much great length what went on with Avraham Avinu's mitzvah of bringing guests into his home. By Yoratz, he ran from the door of his tent towards them. So the 3 men, which you thought they were men, 3 men, he ran. Imagine that, seeing a person 99 years old running towards the guests, because we know that a great way of doing a mitzvah is bezrizus, to do it quickly with a showing feeling to the mitzvah, not to drag yourself to do a mitzvah and do it in a lazy way, but to do it bezrizus, to do it with showing that you're excited. You're so happy to do the mitzvah, to do it with a cheshek, with showing a great love for the mitzvah. Yoretz, he ran towards them and said, "Me Pesach oil," from the door of his home. Why did he ran from the door of his home ran to them, to show that he ran the whole way. You see, they were standing further in the back. He could have started walking, got close to them. He would have done it. He could have run. No, he ran right. He stood up and ran to them the whole distance towards them, because he wanted to do a mitzvah with a cheshek, with a feeling, with showing that he's so happy to do a mitzvah, to show them. Even we're told, Rashi tells us they saw that he wasn't feeling so good. They saw him putting his bandage on. They backed up. They didn't want to bother him. But he wanted to make sure that they shouldn't think it's hard for him. They shouldn't, it was hard, but he wanted to make it as if it's not hard. So he ran to them the whole distance to show them that he's so anxious to bring them into his home, bring them to give them, take care of them for that time that they'll be with him. He bowed down to them. Imagine that. Probably all of you had experience, and I've had experience. You come to somebody's house to make you feel like you're doing them a favor. But really, you come to somebody's home and you have a meal there, or whatever reason you're doing there, you sleep there, you eat there, you're coming from out of town, or you're coming to, and they're doing you a big favor. But some people have the art and the knack to make you feel that, oh, it was such a favor by coming to my house, and you feel so good about it. And sometimes you feel fun. You come to somebody's home, they're taking care of you. You feel you're a nuisance to them. What they need you there for, and okay, what can you do? You need their help. But some people have that knack to make you feel as if you're doing them a favor. And Ravinu sure had the knack. He bowed down to them. Of course, today it's not the custom to bow down to people, but to show that you're so happy that they came, and show just that we're talking about, that they're doing you the favor. He bowed down to them, and he called them your servant. He called them my masters. The other said, my masters. He called them my masters, as if you're doing me such a favor. It's such a great thing you're doing for me. That you're coming to my house. You make me feel so good. He called my masters, and he called himself I'm your servant. I hope I found favor in your eyes for you to come into my house. Can you imagine that? But if I found favor in your eyes, please come into my house. In other words, who am I to have such great people coming to my house? They were not great people in his eyes. He thought the regular Arabs who were served, from the desert, who served the idols. He didn't know who they were, but he thought the regular people who were nothing great about them. He didn't realize they're angels yet, but he made them feel as if coming to my house, you're doing me a great honor. If I found favor in your eyes, would you please come to my house, the house of your servant, my masters? That's what he said. My masters, I found favor in your eyes. Come at the house of your servant, making them feel what a great favor we're doing for him. Look at that. It makes us as if we're coming, as he's coming to our house. It makes him feel like come to his house and makes it like that we're doing him the big favor. That was an act that he had to make people feel good. So, and he told them, wash your feet, because they used to go in the sand with bare feet or with sandals. So that was the way of the land. People would come to your house, you'd wash they would wash their feet. Like somebody today, if they're sweating, you tell them to wash up, go into the sink and wash up, refresh yourself, type of thing. At that time was to wash to wash their feet. It was refreshing to them, since that sand was hot on their feet. And rest up, shanu, tachas hoetz, and you should. And then after you rest up and refresh yourself, and I'll bring for you a piece of bread to eat. I'll give you some bread to eat. Don't think I'm going to go to great lengths and trouble myself for you, because I'll make you feel bad. You see that I'm sick, and you don't want me to go to any great length to bother and myself to the way I feel. I'll just take a little bread and give you, and you'll eat the bread and you'll leave. Of course, that's only what he said to them, but he had plans for much more than that. That's pas lechem, sad lechem chat havayu. And you shouldn't think that you're being very a nuisance to me or annoying to me, because I'm not going to do much for you. I'm going to be very simply give a piece of bread, and just you shouldn't feel too hungry, and that'll just make you a little satisfied if you wouldn't have an empty stomach, and then you'll go on your way. Because this is probably what the reason for Hashem, that you went by my house. How come you came this way? There's other ways to go where you're going. You didn't have to go by my house for me to see you. Obviously, Hashem wanted you to go by me in order I should have the schus and the honor to take you into my house. That's why Hashem, this is because for me to do what I'm saying now is nothing great. I see from Hashem, this is what he wants me to do. That's he made the fact that you're passing my house. It must be because nothing happens by itself. He was talking about Hashem already. Then Hashem made this happen. So it didn't happen by chance. It happened by Hashem's making it happen. So what did they say to him? Do just like you spoke. Sounds very funny for guests to say that. Do what you said you're going to do. So, okay, so okay, well, okay, say okay, but say, do what the way you said you're going to do. As if we're going to hold you to what you said. You told you're going to do. So what they meant was they saw who they're dealing with, a great person, and they were suspicious. He's saying a piece of bread. And being so simple, they suspected he has much more in mind. Kasha dibar, don't do more than you said. Just give us a little piece of bread, we'll eat it, and we'll go. We don't want to bother you. That's what they meant about it, not to they keep it what he's saying that for their benefit. No, for his benefit. He said that we don't want to do any more than that. Not to bother yourself more. Just get a piece of bread and we'll be on our way. That's the part. So Avram Avinu, Torah tells us, and this we have to learn from him. By Meir, he went quick again. He ran to them in the beginning. Now he's hurrying up. And we said, well, now take it easy. They're in the house already. Didn't take it easy. He hurried to Sarah. Sarah, the great matriarch of the Jewish people, she was also 100% with Avram Avinu. With all the kindness that he did, she was right with him. A great couple together doing kindness every day. And said to quick and Lucy, knead dough and make bread for them. Who guys? Make rolls, different type of fresh baked goods for them to eat. The question, why did he say to Lucy, to Sarah, knead the dough, Lucy, knead it with your hand. To knead, there was no electric machinery to mix the dough. You had to do it by hand. Why did he say to Lucy that you should do this? If Sarah doesn't know how to make bread, he said, knead the dough and make bread for them. So the commentaries means he said, don't ask the servants to do it. You do it yourself. You have a mitzvah. So a mitzvah, don't tell somebody else to do the mitzvah instead of yourself. It'll be done. As far as they're concerned, it'll be done. What's the difference? Who does it? But a person should be, we say, if you do a mitzvah through somebody else, you do it by yourself, do it by yourself. Don't send somebody else to do it. You want to do the mitzvah, have the honor and the great schus and the great merit to do the mitzvah by yourself. So it said to Sarah. So just like he ran to them and he was serving them, doing everything, he wanted Sarah the same way to say to Lucy. And naturally, she went ahead. He told her to be quick. He hurried to where she was. She was inside, and she said to her, hurry. We don't want to keep the guests waiting. A lot of times people come to your house and they're in a hurry. And if you detain them, they're sorry that they came. They have their business to take care of, whatever it is. They have no time to waste. So he's showing them that he's not going to detain them. They're hurrying to do as fast as they can to take care of them. And then he ran again. He's running. Where did he run this time? Ran to the kettle to take a nice animal to prepare for the wonderful guests. And he chose 3 young animals that are soft for eating after cooked. And we're told that he took 3 of them and he served them tongue with mustard. That was a delicacy in those times. Each guest had his own tongue with mustard to eat. So they also, tongue is a delicacy by most people. And he told him to quickly take care and prepare it for them. And it was by Meir. And who was that person he told to do it? Ishmael, the son of Ishmael. Because he didn't do it himself. Avram would have done it himself too, but he wanted to train the son to be careful and happy and into the mitzvah of bringing guests into the home. So he wanted him to be involved with the mitzvah also. He had himself involved, he had Sarah involved, and all 3 of them were in the home then. That was the house at that time. Yitzchak wasn't born yet. So all of them, just try to imagine that what's going on in the house. This is Avram, the old Avram Avinu 99, he's hurrying, he's running, Sarah is running, doing it quickly. Shmuel's quickly running to prepare the food, the meat that was prepared for the guests. That was the house of Avinu. And the Torah goes on to say that he served them milchik, dairy food, while they were preparing the meat, the tongues. It takes time. He had to shecht, he had to slaughter the animal according to halacha, because Avraham kept the Torah before it was given. So then you have to cut up the animal, take out the tongue, and you have to prepare it. It takes time to cook it, to roast it. But in the meantime, the guests are hungry. In the meantime, he took cream and milk, and he gave them what to eat in the meantime, so they shouldn't be hungry until the fancy food was ready for them. Of course, they told them they suspected he's going to make a fancy dinner for them. That's why they told them, do what you said, don't do more, we don't want to bother you. But naturally, he didn't listen to them. He prepared for them a great meal. But in the meantime, for them not to be hungry, he gave them a dairy which was prepared, ready for them to eat right away, until the fancy meal was ready for them. So this is a lesson for us. The Torah is telling us. And he put them down under the shade of the tree. They were eating. He stood up next to them. He didn't sit down. He stood there as if showing them, whatever you need. If you need something, I'm ready to go. If you need something more, just ask me. You didn't want to sit down. You want to show them that he's ready to go at their wish. For whatever if they needed something, they wanted something, he's there for them. And he made the mitzvah from the beginning to the end to make them feel good as best as possible. So this is the great lesson that the Torah portion this week is teaching us. Of course, there's so many more things, important things, and practical things that the Torah goes on to tell us in the parasha. But this is what it starts off with, to give us this great lesson of what Jewish people are famous for chesed, for doing kind acts, for achnasah, bring people into our home and making them feel good, make them relax, make them feel at home, make them feel as if they're doing you the favor, doing us the favor by coming into the home. And we learned from here how we have to do it quickly and joyfully, in a way that the guests should see that we're so happy doing it for them, not to schlep it with a tired look on their face. And even though we might not be in the mood and not up to it, but when it comes to the mitzvah, we have to do it in a way that they should feel good and do it the best way possible. And naturally, and we're emulating Hashem, because Hashem, He does for us all the good things that He has, the good food He has for us, and all the pleasures of life that we have. Hashem's behind it. He wants to enjoy life, and therefore we have to emulate Him to make other people enjoy life. And for us, it's a big mitzvah that we'll get a great reward for it in the future, for doing this great chesed that we're talking about.